I promise you I had a 7-minute homily written up. But as I'm walking down the aisle, Father tells me that I have to fully, clearly articulate the mystery of the Holy Trinity. So I hope you have eternity, because it's going to take a while. Actually, I'm going to disobey that order. I'm sticking to my 7-minute homily. There's a story about St. Augustine. Am I too loud? Can everyone hear me fine? There's a story about St. Augustine of Hippo. He was preoccupied with this teaching, with the doctrine, with the mystery of the Holy Trinity. He wanted to understand it, first of all, but he also wanted to clearly be able to articulate the teaching and explain it to others. One day, as he's walking on the beach, he sees a little girl by herself. Little girl digs a little hole, takes a little cup, goes to the ocean, fills up the cup, dumps it in the hole. She goes back to the ocean, brings another cup. She goes back and forth doing this. St. Augustine comes up to her and says, "Little child, what are you doing? I see that you're trying to bring water into the hole and you keep doing it." The child goes, "Just the same way that it's possible that I can fill this hole with the water from the ocean, empty the ocean into this hole, is the same way that you can fill the mystery of the Holy Trinity into your tiny little head." And with that, the child disappeared. There is no way that we can ever fully comprehend the immensity of what God is into our tiny little heads. So we have to get past that. We cannot get hung up on that. There's another quote which says that our salvation hinders on the Holy Trinity. Our sanity hinders on trying to explain the Holy Trinity. We may lose our sanity if we try to understand it and nevertheless try to explain it. So as Father said at the beginning, today we celebrate that mystery. Today we celebrate the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. If we were to use math terms, it would not make sense to us. 1 plus 1 plus 1 in our head is 3. In God's world, infinite world, 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 1. It's more like our math, 1 times 1 times 1 equals 1. There's been many philosophers, theologians who have made an attempt to paint us a picture of what the Holy Trinity is. St. Patrick used to use the clover, the shamrock, to explain to the Irish people that he was evangelizing. 3 leaves, 1 plant. That's the way he explained it. Comes up short, way short, but gives us a glimpse of what the Holy Trinity is. Others have used H2O, the mixture of H2O. We find it in water, we find it in steam, and we find it in what's the other? Ice, water, and steam. 3 different things, but still H2O. That's another concept that kind of brings us a little close to the understanding of what the Holy Trinity is. I've also heard the one about the sun. The sun gives us radiation, gives us light, gives us heat. 3 different concepts that without each other would not be the sun. So those are just tiny, tiny, tiny little examples that we can put in our hearts to try to let that dig in and come up with our own concept. But again, don't lose your sanity over it. We're here to save our souls. That's what the purpose of trying to make a connection with the Holy Trinity. So what's in it for us? Why do we want to concentrate? Why does the church, in her infinite wisdom, emphasizes the Holy Trinity today? Why is such a big deal? It is a big deal. We're still wearing white. We should have been wearing green as ordinary time. White means we're celebrating. It's a feast. It's a high mass. Why? We all live in that same community that God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit live in. We all live in communities, and that's the main takeaway that we should have as far as the Holy Trinity. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit live in a perfect harmony, a dynamic built by love. Whereas we heard in the gospel, whatever belongs to the Father belongs to the Son and is proclaimed by the Holy Spirit. There is no discrepancies in either of their teachings or their essence. It's one essence, unison, unity, three, unity, Trinity. So I want you to think about the communities that you live in. We live in various communities. We have our family, we have our work, we have our school, for those of you who are in school. We also have the parish community. We may have a social community that we belong to. We may be in a sport. We may play soccer, baseball, basketball. That's a community. So let's start thinking of those concepts as we go forth today. Which communities do I belong to? But most importantly, do I bring the Holy Trinity into that community? Do I bring the truth into that community, or do I lie in that community? Do I bring love into that community, or do I bring hate into that community? Do I bring harmony into that community, or do I bring chaos into that community? If you want to call yourself a Christian, we must be bringing love, harmony, patience, understanding, without losing our own identity, without losing our own personality. We must still be authentic. However, we must respect as well the authenticity of that other player, of my son, of my daughter, of my wife. That's why the emphasis of the Holy Trinity this weekend. So I challenge you, brothers and sisters, to start small. No need to take on the world on Monday, please. You'll drive everybody crazy. But pick one community. If you play soccer, pick your team. Think about your team. How are you going to be the presence of the Holy Trinity in that team? If you're raising kids, how are you going to teach them the mystery of the Holy Trinity through your actions? If you're retired and live in a community or have a group of friends, how are you going to bring the light of Christ into that group of friends so that they may begin to enjoy the mystery of the Holy Trinity, which is there for the main purpose of our happiness? Because that's what the Father wants from each and every one of us and each of every one of our communities. Happiness and a fulfillment of His promise of love, mercy, and understanding among all of us. Glory be to the Father, to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.